Let's Get To presents Go Go Astros, a focus on H-Town hardball.
James Christopher from Go Astros here, and the Astros have in fact not won the 2021 World Series. Before we jump into our episode where we kind of wrap all of this stuff up and start the beginnings of looking ahead to the hot stove season in 2022, when and if that will happen, I do want to start out with a heartfelt congratulations to the Braves, but more importantly, like our friends that are Braves fans, including the good folks at Mansplain Baseball Elsewhere. Those three ladies run a great podcast, and their Braves fandom has been true. And I really am very excited for them getting a chance to win a World Series. And my students the day after, the first thing they said was, "Is this the most painful sports memory you've ever had?" And I'm a ranker, and so here's a preview for next week's Let's Get To. I will be ranking my 10 most depressing sports moments in the closing segment of our Veterans Day episode. This one hurts. It stings. I think it's okay that it's still that it's definitely bumming me out, but you can notice that I'm wearing, still representing the team. And I think that's the key, right? You have to stay true to the team, even when things aren't going great and when things don't go your way. And the fact is, that's where you earn integrity, and that's where you earn the good times. And the Astros fan base is weird because it's a lot of new fans who maybe stumbled into baseball 5 years ago. They still watch it like it's a football game. And you have to, fandom isn't something you should just be able to turn on and turn off. And I've loved this team. It's probably, this and like Superman, the first two things in my life that I loved, and I still love them today. And that's not going to change. And I take a lot of heat when it comes to college football because I'm of an opinion that you cannot be as true to a fan of a university if you didn't go there. And I think it's just, you have to have skins in the game. And if you've been an Astros fan all your life, like myself and like Andy and like Brian, it means that the majority of what you've seen have either been times that were okay or not good, but you stay being a fan. It's part of you, and you got to stay tough to that. So I'm not going to be someone who looks at the season as a failure. I think so many people who are taking an all or nothing approach don't really understand the game of baseball. The fact is the game of baseball's playoff system doesn't reflect the way the regular season goes. And you build a baseball team to win the regular season, and then you hope that you go in injury free, which the Astros didn't do, or hot, which they didn't do in the World Series. And so you have to look for successes where they are. For me, I will always view the season and a series of steps, right? Make sure you have a winning record. Okay, you have a winning record, you had a good season. Baseball is hard. It's 162 games. It's a marathon like no other. Make sure you have a winning season. Ever since 2017, make sure you beat the Rangers. I used to not care, but after all of that stuff with the Hurricane, I care very much. Win your division. To me, winning the division is the ultimate not the ultimate goal, but the number one goal. It is how you really measure yourself compared to other teams, because it's 162 game, like I said. So win the division, and then win the pennant, and then win the World Series. And the Astros accomplished most of those goals. And so, yeah, for me, I cannot fathom being a baseball fan where if they don't win a World Series, the season's a failure. It's a disappointment. I don't know how you can't call this team a dynasty because they only have one World Series, but I don't look at it as a disappointment. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I look at things differently. Like every year the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl is a disappointment, because I think football's different. But I think you have to really understand baseball and understand the game of baseball to understand where it goes. I'm proud of the team. I'm so proud of the team. If you think about what they took, both in visiting ballparks, in the media, on social media, and some of the look, it's earned, right? Like the fact of the matter is they cheated the game. Average fans don't want to know or understand that they were the scapegoat, and everybody in America has a right to be dumb if they want to be. They don't have to listen to Chris Bassett. They don't have to listen to all the other people who are now coming out saying it wasn't just the Astros. So fans have a right to be however they want to be, even if they're hypocritical. I mean, we saw videos of kids lining up to get Altuve's signature, and then those same kids booing him when he came to bat. Like, it's not even a thing anymore. It's now just what you do at a ballpark. It's like the horns down, it's that silly. Or Cleveland Indian fans booing Michael Brantley. Michael Brantley was an Indian in 2017. So they put up with a lot of stuff. And again, some of it earned. And they didn't break. And I think everybody thought they would. And all you got to do is look at that knob, Brendan on Asterix Tour, who hadn't tweeted for 3 months. And then the Astros lost the World Series and they decided to tweet. Like, it was such a toxic outside environment that the way that those guys stuck together, you have to be proud of them. The way Astros fans stuck together, you have to be proud of them. And I'm really, happy to see some of fan bases, prominent fans of other teams. I'm speaking specifically Emily Nyman on Breaking Balls pod, who finally started calling out some national media, like, enough is enough. Like, you're making this worse by continually bringing up an old story and then being mad that Astros fans haven't bailed on their team. I said it when the scandal broke. I am an American. I'm a former American soldier, and my country has disappointed me in lots of ways. My country disappointed me just this year when they pulled out of Kabul the way they did. Doesn't mean I give up on it. My church, I'm a Catholic. All you got to do is look at the hundreds of movies that take place in Boston about what the Catholic Church has done. I don't give up on the church. I just try to be the best example of what I can be. My family's disappointed me. I've disappointed them. They don't give up on me. And so that's the thing, is I'm not going to give up on my baseball team that I have loved passionately for at least 35, 40 years just because some mistakes were made. And I'm not going to call the World Series illegitimate, because enough actual smart people looked at it and said it was, including the LA Times and Baseball Prospectus. So again, not every fan has to dive that deep. I wish the media would, because they have responsibility, but that's a talk for another day. But I'm at least very proud of how the team stuck together, and it's going to be different. And I think they're still going to be good. And I think, I'm very torn. We'll obviously talk a lot on this show about Carlos Correa, and I'm torn on what to do, because I want Correa back, but I don't know if I want to Correa back at a 10-year contract, knowing the last 3 of those years are going to be very expensive and he won't be probably very good. And now you're looking at a run that gets prematurely shortened, versus if you're smart with your money and you're paying, even if you're paying big contracts, but they're short term where you're getting people in their prime, you can stay competitive. You'll remember that Andy and I have always said on this show that our goal is to be the Cardinals. We want to be in the conversation every year. I don't want it to become let's throw a bunch of money at a couple years of a team and then we have to tear it down and rebuild it again. So that's where I'm at, though. I'm proud of the guys. I think it was a successful season. I did order a pennant for my wall for the championship. I'm not one of those guys. I mean, I celebrate every step, because life is short, life is long, life is hard. And a baseball season is both short and very long and very hard. And so you got to celebrate. So, we're going to put a moratorium on this. Jake Kaplan's coming on the show. Brian and Andy will be on, and we will be kind of putting a cap on the 2021 Houston Astros. And we're excited to jump on with friend of the show, Jake Kaplan, who covers the Athletic for the Astros. Jake, as you can tell, I have
Cover the
stopped.
Athletic for the Astros.
You do? Oh, shit. Dude, I just got done teaching high school, listening to screenplays, man, from high school kids. Give me a break. All right, here we go. This is take two, everybody. We are excited to be joined by friend of the show, Jake Kaplan, who covers the Astros for the Athletic. We might keep the mess up in there anyway. But Jake, as you can tell, I've stopped crying.
Yeah, I can tell. It was a long 2 days ago for you.
It was, and I don't see a lot of value in like looking back at what went wrong, because what went wrong went wrong. And I think I have a different perspective on getting to a World Series in the first place. But what were some of the things that sort of surprised you about the World Series and things that maybe didn't go the Astros way that you thought might have?
Yeah, well, it was a weird World Series. I mean, the best starting pitcher on the Braves broke his leg in the first game, and Max Fried, their second best pitcher, got dink and dunked in the second game. It was just weird. I think the biggest surprise has to be for a combined 4 runs in the 4 losses for the Astros. I mean, we've seen it before, right? Some of these performances were kind of reminiscent of Game 7 in 2019, when they just had all these chances to score and couldn't. And I think that's just baseball. Sometimes you get the big hit, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're not. I mean, how often does the best team win the World Series? It's one of the reasons the baseball playoffs are so great. But I guess like a long-winded answer, but like the weird thing with the Braves pitching and them still winning, because once Morton went out, it felt like even after the Braves won Game 1, it felt like the Astros were in good shape. And then just the fact that the Astros didn't hit, those were probably my big takeaways, big picture wise.
Yeah, it seemed like the thing I kept telling myself was, 2 bullpen games, they're going to definitely beat up that bullpen.
Right.
That's what they've done throughout this entire run, is get to bullpens, and they just didn't.
No. I mean, they looked like they were on the verge of doing it in the Tucker Davidson game. What was that, Game 4? But then they came away with 1 run in that first inning and kind of let the next guy settle in, Kyle Wright, I think it was. So, man, all those games run together, especially the 3 days in a row in Atlanta. But yeah, it's just I think the key was they had to get to the starter and get to see the bad Braves relievers, and they didn't do that enough. And they saw a lot of the good Braves relievers, and they couldn't hit them.
What do you think? One of the things that's been kind of bandied around is the idea of changing the format, going from a 2-3-2 to like a, I don't know, 2-2-1-1-1 like they do in basketball. It seems like what it might do is maybe it feels like 2-3-2 sometimes cedes the home field advantage. Any opinion on that?
I don't think home field advantage matters nearly as much as fans do. And honestly, I don't think teams think it matters as much as fans do either. I think it's just something they say because they're not going to be like, yeah, it doesn't matter where we play.
Right.
Honestly, like, I mean, how many times do you need to see the Astros lose a World Series game at home before you realize that it's not that big of a factor?
Wow.
I mean, honestly, like
3 to the universe. The answer is 3. I've seen it 3 times. That's all we need.
Like, it's great for the fans that they can go to a more World Series games than the other fan base. And, but I just don't think the noise impacts the games that much. Like, I think maybe slightly, but I think far more important is, how the pitching lines up, who's hot, who's not, who's on this day of rest versus that day of rest. Like, even home road splits, I don't fully buy all the time. Like, Luis Garcia's home road splits were a thing this year. And like, maybe there's something to it, but maybe it's just noise and next year will be the opposite. Like, I don't know. The whole home field advantage thing, I think every September when there's the race for the seeding, it's a big story. And I kind of, after doing this for 7 years, I kind of roll my eyes at it. And it's more about the matchup, than anything else.
Let's talk about Luis Garcia and Framber Valdez and Jose Urquidy, who were kind of all over the place in the playoffs. But if you look at what the Astros directions are, they're kind of the cornerstone of the team now. Like that rotation is looking at losing Correa and all that stuff. How concerned should Astros fans be at their performance, or is it just sort of a thing where they're young guys and the moment maybe got too big?
I think all three of them are different. I actually came away from the postseason higher on Luis Garcia than even before, if that makes sense. I mean, it's hard to judge him too much off game 6 because he was on 3 days rest.
Right.
And all of his previous postseason starts were on 5, 6, or 10 days rest. It's not even normal 4 days rest. He was used to extra rest. And those first 2 innings, he was throwing 97. He had this good command. It was going to go at some point, and it went in the third before they could really get the bullpen going. Framber Valdez is the one that's, I think, most interesting. It's like, what really happened in this playoffs to him? He had that amazing Boston start, and otherwise he was pretty bad. And World Series, he was terrible. So I don't know if that's just, a fluke thing. I think it might be. It's hard to tell, especially coming off a 60-game season, stretching back out to the full length season. Was there some of that? I think everyone's gassed in a normal postseason, and you add that factor. So it might mean nothing moving forward. It might mean something. Urquidy is another one that's tough to parse because he didn't get to pitch in the White Sox series.
Yeah.
Barely pitched in the Red Sox series, and because he was bad, although the Altuve error didn't help in that Boston game. And then he was pretty good in his World Series start. So, I think they all have good stuff. They all have they're all major league starters. It's just a matter of how good are they? And do the Astros, getting a healthy McCullers back next year, do they need to add to the front of the rotation and kind of push Valdez from being a game 2 guy to a game 3 guy and kind of lengthen things out a little bit?
Yeah, shuffling it down that way. It does look like Dusty's coming back.
Seems so. I mean, who knows when it'll become official or whatnot, but I mean, you can't really there's no surprise there, right? He managed them a World Series team. He deserves to come back.
How big of a loss do you think Brett Strom's going to be? Or are we overselling or overblowing how much of a wizard he is?
Well, he seems to be a wizard when things go right, and then when things go wrong, it's Dusty's fault, right? That's that's how it works.
That's the official stance of this show. Yeah.
No, it's definitely a big loss. I wasn't overly surprised because he's been here a while. Older guy, obviously. It's not the same team that he came into, front office wise, manager wise. I think, his contract was up. You only have so many opportunities to see what else what else is out there. And so it wasn't super, super surprising to me. I think, but it is a big loss. They do have 2 guys behind him in Josh Miller, who I don't think people realize already has the title of pitching coach. They promoted him last offseason from bullpen coach to pitching coach. So they had 2 pitching coaches this year. So if he's back, assuming no one else steals him from the Astros, then he can just be the pitching coach again. And then they have assistant pitching coach Bill Murphy. Maybe they change his title to, co-pitching coach or whatever to try to keep him. But they have 2 guys who learned under Strom, who have worked in the Astros minor league system, who are viewed as up and coming younger guys who are really good. So yes, it's a big loss, but they're also still in pretty good shape, I think.
Yeah, it does seem like they're, generally speaking, in pretty good shape all the way around. One place that might not be in good shape is the position of shortstop. Your take. I feel more positive about him coming back than I did Springer, but I think he's gone.
Yeah, I think there's a greater chance he comes back than Cole or Springer, but I still think it's an extremely, extremely low chance. I just think, given his age and what he meant from a leadership city standpoint, what he represented when he was drafted, it just feels like there's like a little bit more of a reason, a little bit more of a chance that Jim Crane would do it. I still don't think he will though. So I expect that he will be elsewhere as well. I think I've thought that all along and have written as much over the last 12 plus months or whatever it's been since we started talking about this. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know when he's going to end up anywhere at the labor situation. Free agency might be a pretty slow burn this year. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Astros do. If Correa is gone, do they turn it over to Jeremy Pena right away? Do they find some kind of stopgap to kind of, give Pena more time in AAA because he didn't have much this year because of his injury? Or do they re-sign Correa and make Pena a utility player? I don't know. I think the likeliest outcome is probably some kind of stopgap 1 or 2 year deal guy to give Pena some room there. But, we also don't know what the rules are going to be. So it's hard.
Yeah, that throws everything off. And I know they're giving Verlander the qualifying offer. I mean, as they should get the draft pick, right? Chances you think he's gone though?
I think I'll always say odds are yes with any free agent, but he does fit what they need. If you buy into the fact that he can bounce back at age 39 from Tommy John and be an ace, why not? But I feel like we don't have enough information there on, what teams think of what he's going to be. I think his market will be really interesting because, we just, no one's seen him pitch since July 26, 2020. Yeah. So maybe he does some kind of showcase at some point. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but I don't know. I could see him coming back. I don't think it's like he's definitely gone, but I think my go-to answer with any free agent is odds are they're going to sign with one of the other 9 teams rather than the one team.
Yeah. If they make it to free agency, they're probably not coming back. Overall though, I mean, where do you feel like we talk about the word dynasty gets thrown around, right? And I'm of the opinion you can't call this Astros team a dynasty. Like, where do you feel like they fit as far as sort of when we're looking back on this era, however much longer it goes, 10, 15 years from now?
Yeah, I think, it's tough in the moment to really evaluate it. I don't think they're a dynasty because they only won 1 title and that title is tainted by the cheating scandal. Even if they had won 2, I don't know if that's a dynasty. Like I think it's borderline impossible to have a dynasty in baseball. Like, especially now, like how many years in a row we had a new champion? It's been a lot of,
I think since 13, right? Or is it longer than that?
I think it's longer than that. I mean, who's the last team that won? Was it the Yankees? The last team that won back to back? Like
maybe.
So like maybe if they had won 3 times in 5 years, all 3 of their World Series, maybe that's like the baseball equivalent, the modern baseball equivalent of a dynasty. But I just think there's so much randomness involved in the postseason that the unpredictable nature of it. Like I don't know if we'll see a dynasty. That being said, I mean, it's a complicated era, because of 2017, because of just like all the turnover and, front office stuff, like with how many dynasties that had 2 GMs and 2 managers.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously they're kind of, you're seeing what Jeff Luhnow built, right? Like this was always his goal, was to build a sustainable winner, a team that has a shot to be in the playoffs every year. And I think he succeeded in that, even better than the Cardinals did, right? That was the thing, was to be the Cardinals. And to this point, I mean, the Cardinals won more titles, but, 300 win seasons for the Astros and then 95 this year. And they look like they'll be the front runner in their division again next year. Like they're, it's pretty much his vision realized, just in a very weird, strange way, that he's no longer the GM, and just so much has happened in that span.
Do you think he'll get a job in baseball again?
I would lean no, just because he hasn't yet. And, if he hasn't if he hasn't really been viewed that as a candidate for, like, say, the Mets job.
No one wants the Mets job. I even took myself out of the running today.
Did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's not a good fit for me and the family right now. So.
No, I mean, I would guess we don't see him in baseball again, but you know, I don't know. It's hard to know anymore what the future holds for people once you get fired from a job in scandal. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I saw someone posted like a screenshot of him tweeting the other day about like go Astros or something. I was like, oh
Yeah, it was real weird because he has
yeah.
been so silent. And then someone who was either his wife on Twitter, or pretending to be his wife on Twitter, talking about Jeff says they're going to win it all. And I was like, this is like Beltran's niece level weird. So I don't know what's happening.
Beltran's niece level. I don't know if it's that weird.
It's weird.
No, like it is the whole thing. The whole like trajectory of his Astros tenure is, and where it ended up is very strange. But
it will be interesting to see, and it's kind of going to be a fascinating experiment to see how you've got James Click now, who's sort of used to a different type of running a team, and now they're going to have to basically keep this thing going through free agency, and particularly with how weak the farm system is, it'll be very interesting to see how much longer the window stays open.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting. I don't think they definitely need to do a lot of it through free agency, but they could also be creative in trades. We haven't seen like the Rays do a lot of trades, right? And outside of the trade deadline, we haven't seen that yet from James Click. Like last offseason, all their additions were pretty much signings.
Right.
So I wonder if that changes this offseason, especially with the rotation surplus, right? If you have Javier back in the rotation, before they even talk about signing number one, that's 6 guys already. Could you trade one of them could you trade one of them to maybe replenish the farm a little bit? I don't know, but I think they're in good shape for next year. I think the bigger question is after next year, when Brantley's a free agent, Gurriel's a free agent, everyone's a year older. Altuve is 33 at that point. Bregman's approaching 30 at that point. Like, I think that's when it gets a little dicey. The Mariners should be better. I don't know if the Rangers will be better, but you would think they'd be at least slightly better by that point.
I hope not.
The A's might be worse.
Vegas, but you'll get to go cover them in Vegas. So
the Angels, every year I think they're going to do it, and they don't do it. So, but I mean, the division I think helps the Astros, right? Like if they were in the AL East or the NL East even, one of these other divisions, they're lucky that they're in the West, kind of similar to the way the Guardians were lucky they were in the Central for all those years.
The Guardians,
the White Sox now
aren't the Guardians cute?
Yeah, I still can't. That's the first time I've remembered to say Guardians. Like,
yeah. And you're not referring to the roller derby team that has the rights to the name, or no?
No, and not the Guardians of the Galaxy either.
Star-Lord's not showing up to throw out the first pitch.
No, but I keep saying Indians. So I'm proud of myself for remembering this time.
Well, there you go. Congrats. 2 quick questions and then we'll let you run. Actually 3 real quick questions. Does Altuve does he finish his career as an Astro? And do you think the 2017 scandal keeps him out of the Hall of Fame?
Let me pull up his numbers real quick, because I feel like we jump the gun on all these Hall of Fame discussions. Like
we do, yeah.
And it's so much recency bias. Like, is Buster Posey really a Hall of Famer? Or are we just saying that because he retired today? So Altuve has played parts of 11 seasons. He's definitely got a chance to be there. I still think like at age, he'll be 32 next May. Like, he's got some work to do.
Yeah.
But by the time he say in that scenario, say the scenario he does it, he gets in contention. By the time he's up for the Hall of Fame, I feel like, time heals a lot of things, right? Like we don't talk about Deflategate that much anymore. I feel like the Astros thing might have a similar trajectory. I would guess no, especially with it being out there that he wasn't, didn't approve and didn't use it.
Right.
Or wanted to use it. I would guess it wouldn't, but I think the bigger one is Carlos Beltran, right? Like when he's up in a couple of years, does that, keep him out? Because he's got the numbers.
He's got the numbers, yeah. Yeah, that will be interesting because I guess you're right. That's next year, right? After next season.
Is it 5 years?
Next year's the 5-year anniversary of the World Series.
Is that what it is though? 5 years?
I believe it is 5. It's either 5 in the MLB or the NFL.
The MLB?
I think it's 5 in the MLB.
Making fun of you for saying the MLB.
Did I say the MLB?
Yeah.
Not as bad as the Penn State.
Yeah. I think, is it NBA that's 6 years? I don't remember. I'm not a big Hall of Fame guy, but
I'm not a big basketball guy. I think it's America's greatest waste of time.
Well, you should have grown up in Philadelphia in the 90s and you would have been.
Okay. That's the 76ers. Okay. Yeah. Last question then before we jump off. The CBA thing, what is your projection? How long do you think we're not going to call it a work stoppage. We're going to call it a lockout because that's what's going to be. Yeah. And how long do you see it going?
I'm not super informed on like labor stuff, but based on just like talking to other media people and just reading our coverage, Evan Drellick has written a lot about like what to look for, what's next. I do think there's going to be a lockout. I do think it's probably going to make the offseason super slow. I tend to believe that neither side will want to lose the money that comes with a shortened season. So I feel like it'll get resolved. My gut tells me by spring training, but I'm also just kind of talking on my ass.
It'll be sort of like a raising the debt ceiling thing. Let's just punt it one more year.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just think, but I mean, it doesn't seem good. And I feel like, so the last time the CBA was up was 2016 into 2017. And they didn't really change much. And I think that made it worse, right? Because then you're basically kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Like, the big change from what I remember was like the international signing bonus pools, and like they just like all the service time manipulation, they just like ignored it. So like they really have a lot to fix now. And given how acrimonious it was last summer and getting a season played and agreeing to all the terms there, I feel like I feel like everyone's kind of expecting the worst, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I kind of just get the vibe just watching some of the way things were handled. Looking at how Manfred sort of started implementing the sticky stuff thing halfway through the season, right? Like a lot of it feels very trying to break the union-y and rewrite the whole thing. And I think if that's what they're going for, it's going to be a long, long, long road. Yeah,
it's also, I don't know. It's just, the whole thing is just, it's weird how there's a month until then. So you could like the Tigers made a trade for a catcher yesterday. Like you could, like, is some team going to just be like, go crazy this month? Be like, we don't know what the rules are going to be, but we're going to like sign 4 guys. And I don't know, like, shouldn't the CBA be up like right after the World Series?
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think, but oh, well, what are you going to do? We'll be riding with it. And hopefully Jake, you'll come back on to ride along with us later on in the off season.
Yeah, we'll have to do some check-ins, especially when there's Correa news at some point.
Absolutely. Jake, thanks so much for jumping on.
Yep. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
So that does wrap up this episode of Go Astros. Thanks so much to Jake Kaplan for jumping on. And, he's a really busy time for him as he continues to also sort of contextualize and put a bow on this baseball season. So I really appreciate him taking the time to jump on. I've moved to I guess it's the Astros corner, even though it's more of an elbow and wraps all the way around. And I was looking at the space as soon as I was done interviewing Jake, and
I've got my authentic, as in the year it came out, 1986 NL West Division Championships pennant. I've got Astros World Series art up here, none of which has an asterisk on it. Weird. And then pennants, going across the top of the room from the mid-'90s teams to the 2005 NLCS Championship banner, the 2019, of course, the 2017 World Series. And then I will be fitting in a banner for the 2021 ALCS Championship, AL pennant. So all that's to say, while this era might not be what we thought it would be when that last out was recorded in 2017, and while there's going to be people that are going to look at it and say, well, they definitely underachieved, it's still been a heck of a ride. And for as much as it still pains me about this year's World Series loss, and hopefully next week when Brian and Andy and I are together, we can kind of put that to bed. It's still a great time to be an Astros fan. This offseason is going to be weird. It's going to be long, but pretty soon we'll be back at Minute Maid Park. So until then, Go Astros.